So welcome to York Business Week and welcome to Sales Reimagined, which is entitled The Future of Sales, but it's actually not the future of sales. It's more about what sales is doing right now. When I use Zoom for workshops, I've got a slide deck that runs behind it. I don't share all of those. I don't do death by PowerPoint, but this slide deck's mainly to keep me on track. And occasionally I will share something with you because I need the visual support for a particular activity or something that we're doing. So I'm going to get you all thinking as we go through. I'm going to get you all working individually. I'm going to get you thinking about your business. But I'm going to start with the fact that I'm going to use the dreaded C word for COVID-19, and it gets a lot of press about the fact that it's changed the way sales operates. But in my experience, sales has been changing for a lot longer than what COVID-19 has brought to the table. COVID-19 certainly accelerated it and probably changed things forever, but sales was changing before. So I've got a phrase that says, sales professionals no longer hold all the aces. So why do you think sales professionals don't hold all the aces perhaps that they used to do 3, 4, 5 years ago? Any ideas as to anyone want to put the hand up and volunteer? If I don't get volunteers, I just pick on people randomly. So you'll all get to contribute anyway. So Andrew Simpson from Landlord. Yeah, Andrew, why do you think that we don't hold all the aces anymore?
Access to information, and specifically through the internet and social media. A lot of customers, B2C and B2B, can do a lot of due diligence prior to speaking to a salesperson.
We're in the presence of greatness, ladies and gentlemen. That is almost a model answer, Mr. Simpson. Thank you very much for that.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
What I would say to you is, salespeople used to hold all the aces in terms of knowledge and information, and in return for an exchange of cash, they would share that knowledge and information. What this has done, it's accelerated the sales funnel dramatically. So people come to the table armed with information and knowledge and background and research and due diligence. And it depends on your business, somewhere between 60 and 80% ready towards making a purchasing decision. So we've got to manage that. And we talk about kind of if the world is surrounding us with information and knowledge. So we talk about the internet, talk about social media platforms. How do you then, as an individual, maximize the fact that you are going to get your share of people coming towards you when it comes to bear with me, that's that one there, coming towards you when it comes in terms of generating activity. So how can you make the biggest impact, given that a lot of the routes to market previously, exhibitions, traditional networking, conferences, seminars, face-to-face activity, how can you make the biggest impact? What kind of things can we think about looking to do when it comes to, I'm not looking at the chat. For those who are putting stuff in chat for my attention, I won't be looking at it unless I ask you to put it in chat because it's just too distracting for the delivery, I'm afraid. So, but thanks for that note. How can you make the biggest impact in a socially distant world? What do you need to be? What do you need to aspire to be to generate some traction or interest? What's your thoughts? Hands up, volunteer. Who wants to volunteer and answer? What do you need to do or be if you want to? I'll go to Angie Downs.
You need to be visible online. Posting regularly and just being present. Okay, that's one starting point, Angie, visibility. Who wants to add on to that a layer of opportunity? Anne, you put your hand up as well. Do you want to, Anne Girdle, unmute bottom left for me? Thank you.
Be distinct and different and very clear about what you're offering.
That's part of that process as well. Any other thoughts? Who's put? Michelle, by the way, if you scratch your head, I'm looking for a volunteer. It's like you just bought a Ford Fiesta in a car auction there. So just be careful what you put your hand up for. So Ian from Insight, what do you need to be with your social media platform, and what do you need to be in terms of making the biggest impact?
Everything they've said so far, but I don't know, show yourself as the expert in what you're doing online.
That's one of the keys you need to think about. I call it being a person of interest, not to CID or any of that nature. You need to be a genuine product or service expert. People don't buy generalists anymore. I don't think people expect people to be, I'm okay at all of this. I'm okay at all this, won't cut the mustard. They're looking for expertise. They're looking for someone who's got a laser beam of talent in a specific area. It might be more than one area, but the reality is we're looking for expertise and genuine product or service expertise. And the phrase that is used a lot is thought leader. Put your hands up if you know what the phrase thought leader means. Anyone know what thought leader is? Who else? I'll go for somebody else who hasn't volunteered yet. Anybody else? So I'm going to go to Andrew again. I'm looking for. You've set the standard high, Andrew, when you first answered. It's going to have to.
You sort of can influence opinions by imparting your knowledge and ideas, mainly through social media channels.
It's being, you're right there, it's about influence, but it's also about being the go-to person. It's about being the respected voice. It's about being the person of interest and relevance. So I'll give you an example. There's a few people on here I know are thought leaders in their field. And I know some people are aspiring to be thought leaders in their field. And the reality is, if you are a generalist, you're never going to be a thought leader. If you spread your capabilities and knowledge and content and activities really thinly, no one knows what you stand for. So you're better off being an inch wide and a mile deep. You might have 3 or 4 of those in a specific area. So I'll give you an example. My business does a number of things, but I want to be and aspire to be seen as a go-to guy for anything to do with sales. So all of my activity and comment and content, etc., is based around commenting around, you know, the sales function, sales activities. I'll talk about types of content shortly. But the reality of that is I don't really comment on things that don't add value to that. And I do a lot of work around leadership, but the only people I do leadership for are people who are existing clients. I don't want to mess the messaging up when it comes to, you know, the general sort of positioning of me and my business externally. So we need to pull customers towards us. We need to own the space that we live in, and we need to be elevating ourselves as the person of expertise and interest. If you work for a company, and I don't know how many do and how many business owners, it's not really the company's place to do that. People don't buy companies, they buy individuals, they buy people, they buy expertise from people. So I'm working with a big organization at the moment, and they are international, 15 businesses in 8 countries working across their sales function. And we're doing a piece of work with them, which is essentially talking about the fact that you don't want to rely on the company to do all the work for you. So, you know, we're saying about, if you want to be a thought leader, you're the thought leader, not the business. If you want to be an expert, you're the expert as a person within that organization, but you are the expert. So we're talking to technical salespeople, engineers, and those kind of levels of people. And it's pulling customers towards you as an individual and you as your business. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of options on digital. Then we're going to look at the sales cycle. So this is about the setting it up in terms of getting in the right place. Okay. So the first thing I talk about is owning your digital space and being someone who is in that space and making the right noises so that you are seen and active. And we talk about, you know, activity and visibility, etc. It's about your content that you create, but a lot of people get worried about that and say, well, I'm not a particularly good content writer, or I'm not sure, you know, my content is particularly, you know, engaging or whatever it might be. So that's okay, because it's also about the content that you align yourself with. So there's lots of people I align my content comments with, things I'm talking to people about sales, I will comment or like or share or whatever it might be. I'm aligning myself with good people. I'm just about to close the blinds. This is very, very professional, by the way. I'm about to close my blinds because I can't see a damn thing. Be back in 2 seconds. Hang on. Very professional, that, by the way. Okay, so it's not just your content, it's other people's content. It's aligning yourself with the space that you want to be in that space for. It's also about who you're connected to and your connectivity ambitions. So people judge you by the company that you keep on that basis. it's your digital activity and footprint across whichever platforms you choose to use. Now, I chose many years ago to exclusively work on LinkedIn. I do a bit of Twitter for football knowledge and football news. I do a little bit of, I've got 3 friends on Facebook because I only use it for Messenger for when my son's traveling. And I don't use Instagram and I don't use other platforms, but I'm very active and a very strong footprint on the platform that I choose. And those platforms will depend on the type of business that you run. But it is about visibility. It's about taking regular positive action. It's having what I call a content plan, which we're going to talk about in a second. And the last thing I want to talk about, so this is how you think about starting to influence the people who may be looking for your particular products or services. So I want to talk to you about personal brand. Who's got one? I want you to write down 3 things, 3 words or phrases that are always used to describe you by customers, peers, clients, colleagues, whatever. Not what you'd like them to say. Oh, he's a lovely guy, fabulous, friendly. Not what you'd like them to say. The 3 words or phrases that are always used to describe you. Those who are not on video, can I ask if you can put your videos on? It's much more engaging for me and for the rest of us if we can see you. So I know you appreciate you've got other things going on in cats and dogs and homeschooling and, you know, whatever. But if you can have your videos on, it would be much more helpful and much more engaging. Thank you very much. I know there's bandwidth issues and stuff, but thanks. So 3 words to describe you. Yeah, Tracy from. So Tracy, unmute for me. 3 words to describe you that are regularly used to describe you.
Enthusiastic, mad as a box of frogs,
Yeah.
knowledgeable.
Okay. Are you happy with those 3?
Well connected.
Yeah, well networked. So are you happy with those?
Yeah.
So do you think they help to define a little bit about you in terms of the enthusiasm, the well connected?
Yeah, absolutely.
So would I see that? Would I experience that? And would I feel that if I look at Tracy Flannery on any online platform? Guys,
Yeah,
can I ask you to mute if there's noise in the background with phones and stuff? I only want you unmute for the people who are speaking because the background noise is horrific. Thanks. Tracy, sorry, would I see that and experience that when I'm looking for that enthusiasm and that well-connected sort of activity?
Yeah, I think so. Probably not as much as I could.
Okay, so I would say that you've got what I call an accidental profile on that basis. You know, you do what you do because you've always done it, but maybe haven't got a strategy that's behind that. You know, it's not, you're not making a deliberate ploy, deliberate plan to create the content and create the visibility. But having said that, you are so well connected, it doesn't do you any harm as a starting point. Okay. How do people describe Stu Burton from Business Watch? Give us 3 words or phrases to describe you.
I think mine sound quite corny, really, but if I'm honest, it probably is what it is. I get that I'm nice, you know, just a general nice guy, knowledgeable, but I'm not. I wing it a little bit, if I'm honest, but I sell that, I suppose. And professional. Welcome
to sales, by the way. Winging it, and that's okay. I'm only joking. Yeah. So, what knowledgeable? What was the last one?
Professional.
Okay. So, if I'm looking at professional and knowledgeable, would I see that if I'm looking at your profile on LinkedIn or the content that you're producing or the content you're commenting on or what you're sharing in terms of, you know, top tips or white papers or information, etc., or not?
No, in all honesty, although I completely get where you're coming from and support it, I've not really got a big online presence. I'm on LinkedIn, if I'm being completely honest, for the sake of it. So maybe that's something that I probably need to work at. Okay.
And you work in the sales function though, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
The 2 places people are going to look if you reach out to them, they're going to look at the website for the business. They're going to look at your profile on LinkedIn. They're the 2 places. So those have got to resonate quickly and effectively, and they've got to look in terms of how they look from not just for the profile language. It's not a social media course, this, but the ambition is to own that potential space and activity as someone of interest and influence and someone of relevance. So I'm going to ask a question about content. Do any of you have a content strategy a personal content strategy? Who's put the hand up there? Chris Wilson, you've got a personal content strategy. Come on, unmute. You must have a personal content strategy, Chris.
Yeah, so my 3 words are positive, consistent, and reliable. And then I only ever mention anything on LinkedIn that is focused around sales strategy or sales leadership, or mindset around how to make the best of your day.
And how to be positive and all that kind of stuff, yeah. Which is
and
why,
I have a commitment to post. I post daily on LinkedIn, once a week on video, and once a week on a kind of a video vlog.
Okay, and how's that working for you in terms of visibility, relevance, traction? You know, people who you're engaging with who perhaps you wouldn't have engaged with before, who are seeing you as that positive, engaging, knowledgeable sales guy. Has that had an impact on that?
Yeah, it's taken a long while. I mean, it's been 8 months now in terms of this year's journey. But it's funny when you see people and they say, "Oh, I watched your video," or "I've really resonated with the message." So there's lots of what I call LinkedIn lurkers out there that don't actually comment, but are watching and lurking and identifying with your message.
Yeah, and I think if I post anything, I can guarantee the first 10 people who are going to say something, I know 8 of those 10 are going to be, and that's fine. But the reality is, starting point for Sales Reimagined is we've got to create a window that looks different to what it looked before. It used to look like going networking, maybe going to an exhibition, maybe doing some seminars and workshops, maybe, you know, getting out there and door knocking, maybe ringing people, maybe doing, you know, all sorts of activities. And most of those are closed off or have changed dramatically. So I want to talk to you now about actually making this sales funnel work for you. A typical 4-stage sales funnel would be about raising awareness. It would be about interacting with the customer. It would be about raising their interest through that interaction, and it would be taking some action, which is obviously closing the deal. So awareness, interaction, interest, and action or activity. That 4-stage sales funnel still works, but the execution of that 4-stage sales funnel has changed dramatically. It was always changing. It was evolving. COVID has just, as I said earlier, accelerated that. So step 1, it all starts, as Chris has mentioned, the word strategy, awareness. So who's got a sales strategy right now? Put your hands up if you've got a sales strategy for you or your business. Hands up. Shocking lack of hands going up, by the way. Come on, really? Mark, did you put your hand up there? Mark, I couldn't. Mark from City Cruises. Did you put your hand up? Yeah. Unmute for me then, Mark. Sorry.
No, it's all right. I'm jumping between 2 screens as well,
That's
so I lost my cursor then.
You work in the hospitality and leisure sector, right?
Yeah. So I mean, it's much more B2C. There is some, you know, we do offer corporate hospitality venues and things like that, but that has very much vanished for the time being.
But you've had a hell of a year then, haven't you, in your sector, outside of your control, and much of it, you know, kind of, you know, really quite, I would imagine. You can't, if you can't get people gathering together, you can't cruise them up the river on a red boat, can you, for example?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's not to mention the flooding as well. But just for COVID, it's been a tough year. But yeah, I mean, we're kind of realigning our sales strategy. So we're part of a national group. So City Cruises are based in London. We've got an operation in Poole in Dorset as well. So at the moment, we don't have anything operating that we can sell. We can try to actively sell products for post lockdown reopening, but obviously there's a lack of consumer confidence in that, because they're not sure if it will be extended again because of what we've been through earlier in the year. So current strategy at the moment now is to focus on gift voucher sales, so to get money in the bank, which we will then, you know, those people will travel with us, or the recipients will travel in the future. So we're just looking at finalising a new gift voucher sales system, so a white label system, and then within that there's a sales strategy of contacting people who've travelled with us this summer, so have experienced a COVID secure version of our products, right? In the hope that they would then buy that to gift it for their friends and family. So they're
confidence that they know that it's going to be a safe present,
yeah. So they've got the most recent relevant experience of travelling with us, as well as there'll be some paid digital activity, hopefully, if I get that signed off, across social media, across Google, and then we're we're on the Visit York Christmas virtual
You
Christmas
say
market.
your partnership strategy with the city and the tourism and all that would go hand in hand with that, wouldn't it? Really, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, we're looking at the existing partnerships that we have, and then how can we realign the product that we're trying to sell at the moment.
Okay, I'm going to talk to you about a fag packet sales strategy. Okay, and a fag packet sales strategy works very simply on the open questions: who, what, why, where, when, how. Who, what, why, where, when, how. And you need to think about all of those factors if you're thinking about growing and developing your business, or just making your business viable in the challenging times that we find ourselves in. So let's take them individually. Who are the particular customers or clients I want to engage with? If you run your own business, by the way, that's down to you. That's your choice. I had work with a client yesterday. He said, "Oh, I'm working with sectors I don't want to work with." It's your business. Why are you doing that? Oh, well, you sort of evolved into it and it was accidental. Well, you know, who do you want to work with? Why have you chosen that sector and or that group or that particular type of organization or customer? And the main thing is you need to make sure that you've chosen them and they are valid and relevant, because A, they've got money, B, they've got confidence, C, they're actually in the frame for buying, for example. What is it out of your portfolio that you are offering? And I really like what Mark's done there. He's not offering cruises up the river this week because it's lockdown. He's offering gift vouchers to experience that when the world feels a bit different. So your what has changed significantly to what it would have been this time last year when we hadn't heard of COVID and we were coming up to a busy Christmas period. The what, hate the word pivot, but it might be a pivot moment. It might be your what, okay? Start a lockdown. I don't mind admitting, say to people, I spent the first 3 days watching Netflix. When I'd done Netflix, I didn't do Netflix in 3 days, but I sat watching Netflix for 3 days thinking, what do I do? I had a few light bulb moments, and my what is now very much based around online, webinar content, sales academies that are delivered virtually, etc., because the classroom stuff has been and gone and come back and not sure, and the consumer confidence, as Mark said, that's affected it. So, that's my what has changed significantly. If you'd said to me last year, I'm going to spend 90% of my business being sat in my front room on a Zoom call, imparting knowledge and wisdom, I'd have laughed you out of the park because I'm a people person, but your what will be reflected by the situation that we're in. Why would they care? Why would your target audience care? So why are they going to part with money or commitment or time or whatever it might be? We've done who, what, why, where, when. Is there a timing issue that's in your favor? Has yesterday's news about a potential vaccine given a bit more confidence to you thinking, let's start things in Q1? Are you able to think about things that are seasonal? Are you looking beyond the first part of next year and looking long term to middle and beyond of next year? The when is important. When is it likely that you're going to be successful? And then who, what, why, where, when, how. And the last one is how are you going to get at the people? And that, we talk about Mark talking about partnerships and alliances and collaboration and direct marketing and digital marketing, and we've already talked about social media. A lot of the stuff you can do is already free of charge. It's out there. Going back to my very first starting point is put yourself in the space where these people might be looking. So I'm going to ask you to answer a question. I want you to answer it's a 3-part question. And the question is, where have you been as an individual or business? I'd like you to think about your business really in terms of these answers as a result of COVID. Positive or negative? I want you to answer, just write down positive or negative. So next one, victim or opportunist. And the third one, stagnant or pivot. And what I want you to think about is, have you used the opportunity that's been presented to us that we can't avoid to take advantage of some new opportunities and using what's available to us? I'm going to share with you some practical tips and things that we can do now that we couldn't do before or didn't do before that might actually change the game in your favor. So how many positives have we got in the room? Put your thumbs and your hands up if you're positive, okay? Positive. Okay, probably a fair reflection, maybe 40%. How many of you are opportunists? I don't ask you how many victims. Victims don't usually put their hands up, by the way. If you do this, how many victims? People just go, well, I'm not putting my hand up. So I'll go the other way. How many of you are opportunists? So about the same, not the same people, by the way. And how many of you have done some form of, I do hate the word, pivot? And that might be you've moved your business 10% to the left or 5% to the right, or you've launched something, you know, alongside. How many of you have done something different? Anne, Graham Fountain, Michelle. I'm going to go to you in that order then. Anne, Graham Fountain, then Michelle. Anne, what have you done? What's your pivot moment?
One of the things that we have definitely put onto our website and are putting out there is the basis of the company, which is ideas, and being able to provide people and organizations with different ways of thinking. We called it ideation, particularly at this time when people are hitting brick walls and a bit floundering. So we've absolutely explicitly put that as one of our core pillars.
And was that not a core pillar this time last year, Anne?
No, it was hidden in our name.
Yeah.
And we talked about it. And, you know, it's part of the reason for the company being called Ideas Group. But we've been working on that. Have we done enough of making the most of that? No, we haven't. And that's partly, you know, life and business and keeping afloat and keeping business coming in and responding to clients has taken over. But
what I like about that, Anne, is that that's one of your pillars, that's a space you could own. That is a space you could absolutely look to own. I used the word ideation with a client a couple of years ago, and he said, that's a made up word. I quite like it. So, you know, you could be the ideation people, but own that space and do more, because you said that you haven't quite done enough. But that's where COVID and 2020 has given you an opportunity. You probably had it hidden. Somebody said to me about, Eric Morecambe was once asked, can you play the piano? He said, I know all the right notes, but not necessarily in the right order, which is a great answer. And a lot of businesses are like that. They've got some real gems hidden amongst everything that they've built up over the years. So what you've built up over the years, you've kind of, that's what we've always done. We've always done it this way. And then now you've got no choice but to do something different. I love that, Anne. It's a great story. Thank you for that. I was going to go to Graham Fountain, then Michelle. Graham, what's your pivot or transformation moment or change?
Well, obviously, I lost my job not long into the first lockdown, so set up on my own to do the same thing, R&D. The pivot is that I'm now not just doing R&D, I'm involved with embedded capital allowances, patent box, land remediation claims. We've expanded the full suite of tax relief claims across the board. But then on top of that, I've also, two other friends of mine lost their jobs as well during lockdown, basically decided to go self-employed. And we're in the process of putting a business partnership together that all encompasses varying different services that we can provide to all business. So
is there a golden thread in there, Graham? You mentioned tax. Is tax a golden thread throughout those?
Oh, well, yes and no. One guy's a graphic designer and printer, but he can, you know, he's very, very artistic, if you like. He's really good with that sort of thing. The other guy,
I love that phrase, by the way, spoken like a non-graphic designer. He's like really, you know, he's quite, you know.
I don't know. He can draw things.
Brilliant. Years of study coming out to Graham Fountain describing him as he can colour in really well. Well done.
Absolutely, yeah. But the other lads, I mean, he's a recruiter, so it all ties in. Certainly when you're getting the tax rebates, it's so you can reinvest back into your business.
Now, there's the language I want to hear from you, right? I want to look at tax incentives to reinvest in your business. If that's the space you need to earn. You need to own, sorry, that's your golden thread, and that's the expertise bit. Because if you become generalist, or we can do business services, there's not enough to hang your hat on to do that. I'm conscious of time. Michelle, thank you, Graham. What was your pivot moment? Well, I hate the pivot. What was your pivot moment, Michelle?
Yeah, similarly, I lost my job during lockdown and then joined a new company. And the pivot moment was just what they had done and my old company hadn't. They just refocused. We are apart hotels. So we've stayed open right through the pandemic, but they just completely changed what they needed out of a customer. And we started helping key workers, you know, the frontline workers and the services, and now more construction, because that's what's actually moving around at the moment.
Is that down to the fact that someone had a strategy?
Absolutely. Yeah, where my old company didn't. So it definitely opened my eyes that maybe losing your job's not the worst thing in the world.
Well, you know, it's traumatic. I would imagine it's not great for circumstances, but sometimes it depends on the optimist or pessimist and victim, etc. What I would say to all of you is, look at your core services, look at what you do, and look at what you've traditionally done. And is there something right now that is going to help you to say, let's pluck that bit out and let's focus on that. We might get back to delivering the other stuff. We might not. We might never get back to that. So what is the core? What is the one or two things in your business profile that people will still pay for, buy, invest in, look at, etc., etc.? I'm intrigued, Laura, for research matters. I'm just intrigued by the name of the business, okay? What do you research, Laura? Can you unmute for me, please? Are you sat in a wine cellar, by the way? On the right?
No.
A wine cellar. That looks fabulous. It's not a wine cellar, is it?
No.
No, you wouldn't get any work done, would you, on there? No. Okay.
I wish.
What do you research?
We're, Elaine, my colleague, is on here somewhere. We're a partnership of business research, really, but we've actually been doing a lot of more policy evidence reviews. So at the moment, we've just been commissioned by somebody to do a review on the impact of COVID on health inequalities. So for us, this feels like a really pivotal moment, because we think we can take this experience and really go out there, because there's going to be so many organisations looking at COVID and its impact for a really long time, I think. And I think we can really become experts in that area. That's our hope anyway.
You're absolutely right. And I think in terms of finding that sweet spot, that's exactly what we're looking to achieve. Okay. So we talked about having a relevant sort of sales strategy. And we talked about the fact that being positive, opportunistic, and looking for a pivot is going to give you an opportunity to drive your business forward. But which channels do you use? The only thing I'm going to say about the channels is some are new, some are traditional, but you need to work out which ones work. So, for example, I've got, you know, we're all using Zoom and Teams, but how do we use it in the sales cycle? Phone, email, e-shot, social media channels, messaging platforms, Zoom, Teams, visits, hybrid events, virtual events, whatever. Whichever gives you the best chance of success is what your customers might want from you. What's the best way? So I'm going to show you how to look at Zoom and Teams and video in a way that you own the space better than you did ever before COVID, okay? So we'll start with prospecting first of all. Prospecting, looking for new customers, looking for new businesses, looking for new alliances. It's never been easier than it is right now, simply because a lot of people are at home, furloughed, got a bit of time, etc., etc. But it does take effort to do so. But you've got things like, you know, loads of options, Google searches, top 20 lists. I'm going to show you a few now. LinkedIn connections and connection requests, etc. I'm going to talk about a quick way of doing that. But you've still got to put the effort in. But you've got to work out, who do I want to talk to? So have any of you got a sweet spot of a sector that you think that sector right now would be perfect for me and for our business? Who's got a sector as a, you know, right in the sort of eye of the opportunity? Stu Burton, you are, I was talking yesterday, give us an idea of who your sectors that you'd like to target are going forward.
Yeah, so going forward, we're getting into care comms, hospitals, care homes, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So obviously, massive opportunities. You know, hospitals are kind of in need more than ever. You know, be it upgrades, new installations, or whatever else. So
you want to explain what you do so people know what that is?
Yeah, so I mean, generally, I work for Business Watch Fire and Security, so it's, you know, fire alarms, CCTV, intruder alarms, all that general kind of stuff. But as I say, we kind of wanted to branch out a little bit, and I think, you know, COVID and everything else is magnifying the opportunity really of getting into the care sector in general. You know, so it's a good opportunity. You know, at the right opportunity at the right time.
So like anyone, you can find lots of information. I've been targeting the care sector for one of my clients. There's lots of ready-made opportunities, top 20 lists, care home groups, top 20 influencers in the care home sector. Lots of people are connected on LinkedIn. I'll explain a connection approach shortly on LinkedIn. The other thing I always encourage people to do is every now and again, just export your LinkedIn data. If you're on LinkedIn, export your data occasionally. I've got 6,500 connections. I don't know many of them personally, but when you export them and you think to yourself, wow, didn't know I was connected to that person or that sector or whatever already. The best way of exporting your LinkedIn connection data is export it, save it straight away as a Excel spreadsheet, because it comes out as a CSV file and you cannot save your alterations. I've seen somebody work for 2 hours on their exported data and it didn't save, and it was quite disappointing for them, shall we say. So save it as an Excel spreadsheet and then sort it by job title. So for example, with mine, I've probably got 150 sales directors. I've probably got, 40 learning and development directors. I've probably got, CEOs and MDs. I bracket them together because the language I'm going to use to target CEOs is going to be different than the language I'm going to use differently to target L&D professionals. So I can run mini campaigns based on people I'm already one step closer to. So LinkedIn searches, etc. Don't ignore the people who view your posts and comment on your posts, but it takes time to find the contacts. I know lots of people who work in sales and they just don't put the yards in, they don't put the effort in. I'm going to show you a quick way. This is an example of a connection request. I was working with a client, PDM, who had designed one of the first reusable face shields at the start of lockdown. It's reusable, it's CE marked, it meets all the European standards. But and I was targeting on their behalf the stadium directors when there was talk about going back to sports events and football grounds. So the stewards and the senior people would have to have protection and PPE in place. So forget the fact I'm a massive Borough fan. What I'm saying here is I sent this connection request to say, we're doing this work, you're planning to return to stadiums. I'd like to connect to bring to your attention to protect your players, your staff and your stewards. That in itself is not enough to grab someone's attention. So when you send a connection request on LinkedIn, put a link to something. This was a link to the case study on the website at PDM for this particular face shield. The elevated amount of traction that got, because someone goes, yeah, what, protect my players and staff, face masks, face shields, whatever, click. Oh, when they click through it, that's the landing page for real impact. So I'm going to ask you, if I was going to find the best version of you, the best version of your business, where would you take me? Would you take me to a website? Would you take me to a specific area of your website? Would you take me to a white paper? Would you take me to a YouTube channel? Would you take me to a video hosted somewhere else? Would you take me to your LinkedIn profile? Where's the best version of you that's going to go, I'll connect with Sophie. Yeah, I'm okay with Anne. Yeah, Angie Downs, I'll connect with her. Where's the best version of you out there? Where would you land me? Because that's what you want to put in all your connection requests. Hi, it's Eamon Byrne. We're doing some great work here, blah, blah, blah. There's a link to what we're doing. I'd love to connect with you. The link to what you're doing will elevate the traction. Where's the best version of you, Eamon? What's your business for me? Unmute for me, Eamon, if you don't mind. I'll go to Dario and then I'll go to Angie Downs. So Eamon, what's your business, Eamon?
Sorry. That's a good question. The best view of me. I think, well, we've got the last year really trying to hone in on our marketing and making it slightly more digital. So I work for Castle Employment Group, and we have a recruitment arm of the business. We also have an HR solutions arm of the business.
I love you. You got my son a job in July. Thank you. He's
brilliant.
Grateful. So thank you.
Oh, brilliant. Excellent. Well, that's always great. That's probably the best version of me right there, Nick. That is the best version. You've just really helped me out there. But that's ultimately what it's about, really. I suppose that version, is an online brochure. It kind of explains what we do, and it breaks down how we can work. Part of my remit at the moment is to help drive and support the HR support arm of the business. But I've been with Castle for a number of years, so I also help out on the recruitment side as well.
So whatever your message is to your recipient of someone you'd like to reach out to, you need to put a link in that takes them to what they're interested in. So if it's HR, that's HR. If it's recruitment, it's recruitment. And if it's a white paper, electronic, digital brochure, it doesn't matter, as long as you take them somewhere and you take them to the page that you want to take them to, or the place you want to take them to. Okay. I said,
I did pop a question on there. Sorry, it was just if you put it through LinkedIn, can you actually trace who's actually clicked into that link?
Well, it depends on what you've got on your tracking device.
Is there a way of doing that?
You can't do it through LinkedIn. What this is about is elevating the conversion rate and giving the reason to, you can't sell anything in 2 paragraphs or whatever you get on a connection request. What you can do is, think about elevating that with a link that is hyperlinked in. They click on it automatically and they look, oh, right, that's the face shield. I got loads more traction than I would have done by just saying, can we talk about face shields? When they see it and there's a big visual of it, we've got much more traction. I said I'd go to some of the people. I've got memory like a sieve. Who did I say I was going to go to next? I said I was going to go. Did I say I was going to go to who? Thank you. Angie was one of them. You were third. Someone second's hiding. Angie, I don't know who I said I'd go to second. But let's come to Angie. Where's the best version of you, Angie? Where would you land me?
I'd say LinkedIn, because I've been doing quite a lot of work recently on my profile. I've put a video on there of how I can help as a business. So
where's the video hosted?
It's on my profile. I can't remember the exact section of it, but it's.
But it must. You can't host the video on LinkedIn, can you? Is it hosted on YouTube or whatever? Yeah. Point them to that, because if it can only read your LinkedIn profile, point them to the video. If the video is the selling point, point them to the video.
Okay.
Point to the best version of you. We'll go one more. I said I'd go one more. Sophie Watson, I love the fact she's looking down going, he won't pick on me. He won't pick on me. If I don't make eye contact, he won't pick on me. Actually, welcome to my world, Sophie. I absolutely will. So
I was actually writing something down to check out Angie's video. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's okay, Sophie. Where's the best version of you that I'll find?
So my best version of me is definitely on my LinkedIn page.
Okay.
As a business, we are in the middle of launching a new website. So at the moment, I don't actually have anywhere to point anyone other than LinkedIn.
Okay.
But my main kind of going back to words that would describe me, I'm quite goal orientated and focused on customer service, which is definitely reflected on my LinkedIn page through recommendations. Yeah.
What I would say though, Sophie, you start looking at content on LinkedIn that's linked to customer experience, customer excellence, and commenting and aligning yourself with that. There's lots out there. I'll give you a name of somebody who's an expert in that field, a lady called Marianne Smith. Follow Marianne Smith, connect with her, Marianne. She's trying to own the customer experience space, and she posts regularly. So if you align yourself with that, it all goes into the same mix. So I like the fact that you accept you haven't got a website to land on. Your best version is you on your LinkedIn page. That's absolutely fine. But don't forget the impact of that. Take them to where you want to take them, because that's what's going to get them to first start the journey with you. Okay. So let's talk about initial engagement. How many of you still use the phone? Put your hands up if you still use the phone. Right, not all of you though. It's now a default, isn't it? The default is, shall we have a Zoom? Shall we not? Shall we just have a phone call? Let's go old school. Let's pick up the phone. Let's have a chat. Let's do a phone call, shall we? Yeah. don't always go Zoom because, you know, you think you should do. I want to use Zoom strategically. I don't want to waste Zoom. Zoom is a brilliant sales opportunity. I don't want to waste it too early. So somebody sent me a note on LinkedIn this morning and said, can we have a chat about something? So yeah, no problem. And he said, Zoom or phone? I went, let's go old school. If it gets to the stage where I need to impress him more, I'm just on a scoping conversation at the moment, then I'll get onto the Zoom call. We'll talk about how you do that and how you use it. But don't burn your Zoom bridge. Don't become the Zoom person. Every time I want to talk to Dario, he insists on a bloody Zoom. You know, what's wrong with the phone call? I'm not saying you shouldn't, but, you know, sometimes you can overdo that. But how many of you have ever recorded a personal message to someone you're trying to reach out and engage with? A personal video message for someone. Stu, we're in the presence of greatness. Chris, I knew we were anyway. Let's go to Mr. Wilson, Adamo. Chris, so you've got a personalized video. You've got someone that you definitely want to work with. You don't do big numbers, you do quality, don't you? So you're probably looking at, you know, you might have a handful of prospects or targets at any one time. You're not doing like thousands and thousands, are you, potentially? Quality, not quantity, which is fine. What are you recording on that personal introduction?
On that, or I'll do a Zoom?
What is it? What is it I would get? I'm a target for you. You've identified through your research. You should be working with me. I don't know you particularly well. I've tried connecting with you on LinkedIn. I've not responded. You've got my email address. You're going to send me something personalized. What's it going to look like?
I would just say, Nick, really loved your LinkedIn post today. I think there's something we can mutually discuss together. Look forward to talking to you.
Brilliant. Again, greatness. And the reason it's greatness is you're not trying to sell me anything. You're basically recognizing something that I've done and said, let's potentially explore. Never say early in a conversation with somebody, we can do this or we can do that. You don't know. So just say, I'm looking to explore. I think there may be. It's a much easier landing place for someone than the arrogance of, we can save you this, we can do that, because you don't know. You don't know until you've explored. So I never use the, you know, we can and we will. I'll say, I'd like to explore because we may be able to, and I think we can probably explore that. What format do you use for the video, Chris?
WhatsApp video or Zoom. I'll just Zoom myself and then send them the Zoom link on the email.
Excellent. Right.
A bit weird, but it works.
It works because people look at it and nobody else, not many people are doing it, and people will look at it and go, well, he's put a bit of effort into that. And who's this Chris Wilson guy? And let's have a look. Go on, then I'll take the call, or I'll respond to the call to action. Those who've not done it, I get why people haven't done it. Okay. Most people don't like themselves on video. Most people don't want to do an arm length selfie that looks terrible. But we can all Zoom now, can't we? So what Chris said, there's the perfect way of doing it. Set up a Zoom with only yourself on. It's a bit sad, really. Just you talking to the camera and make a 30-second, 1-minute intro video and just record it. And by the way, I do a lot, but I'm no good at editing. So if it's not very good, I'll just do another one because I don't know how to edit very well. So if I try it, I think that's a tongue-tied, complete waste of time. I'll just do it again. So I'm going to ask you, as a piece of homework, I can't insist you do it. I'd like you to think about your 1 minute video introduction. What would you say? What would be your message to someone? And I'd like it to be specific, because what I'd like it to be is you've targeted someone you definitely want to work with. You'd love the idea of them responding to you. You think there's a good opportunity to explore. What would you say in a 1-minute video? Now, if you want to make that me, don't make it me. I don't want you to sell to me, but if you want to send a 1-minute video to me, send a 1-minute video to me. Absolutely. My contact details are available at the end of the slide deck. And when you get them, send me a 1-minute video. I'll give you a bit of critique. Imagine I'm your sweet spot customer. Imagine I'm your target audience. Imagine I'm the guy that you think could change your business in the next 12 months. I could be a major client. What would you say to me? And don't worry about professional, production values and all that kind of thing, because we're also Zoom and Teams friendly now. We accept the fact that, we've got backgrounds that are a bit dodgy, and we've got things going on in the kitchen, and we've got homeschooling going on somewhere, and the dog's doing its, shouting and barking, and the kids are fighting. tell them you're just doing a 1 minute video and keep quiet, but you know, ultimately we're not bothered about it sat on a green screen with anything behind you. So a 1 minute, that's your homework, okay? But I'm now going to talk to you about pitching, okay? So pitching has changed in your favor as a result of COVID. And it's changed in your favor as a result of COVID because of Zoom and because of Teams. So I'm just conscious of chat. I was putting in, somebody argue better on the phone and all, Chris, yeah. Yeah, I've got a face for radio, Chris. Thanks, mate. Yeah, none taken. That's all right. I can live with that. I can live with that, you swine. Okay, so right. So there's your homework: a script for a 1 minute video outreach message. It doesn't have to look professional. It just has to sound as though you've put some effort in. And the one thing I want to say to you about having chemistry discussions or presentations is, don't ask permission. Don't say to somebody, can I set up a meeting? Say to somebody, I'm looking to set up our Zoom meeting. What Zoom meeting? It's how we work. It's what we do. So Chris, it's what we do at Adamo. We sit down with clients on Zoom and we understand what you're about. You're not asking permission. You're actually saying this is our process. Too many businesses are apologetic for how they work, and they say, is there any chance we can have a client review meeting? People go, well, no, we don't need one. Oh, okay, sorry to bother you. Tell them what you do, tell them why you do it, and tell them that's how your process works. So your pitching proposition now is an opportunity to control things in the same way you were controlling them face to face, but with much more content potentially. So I work with loads of salespeople historically who will run a sales meeting as a sales rep, going to a client, B2B particularly, and going into a room and doing a sales meeting. And invariably, they were average, to say the least, because they weren't using a lot of technology. They weren't using, you know, some of the things available to them. So these days you can use graphics, infographics, video or animation. You can get involved in creating some really inspiring presentations about your initial proposition. And you do it because the environment allows you to do that, because we're also Zoom compliant and Zoom confident. It's not unusual to go to a meeting. So Angie Downs, marketing consultant, comes to see a client face to face, and Angie's going to probably, you know, talk through the meeting, maybe use a bit of a graphic or whatever it might be. Now Angie can say, right, we're going to do a Zoom call. I want to lay out about how we work at Halo, what we do at Halo Effect. And you can use animation, video, things that you would have used before but never did, but now become potentially second nature. So you've got to practice a little bit about how you use them and be a bit more creative. But the same thing occurs when it comes down to your proposals, which I'm going to come on to in a second. But I want you to think about this. I'm going to show you a little video, and it's about impact and why people buy, especially somebody mentioned earlier, I think when we're in the presence of greatness, and they answered that first question really well. People are doing their own due diligence. People are doing their own research. People are doing their own thought processes around, you know, they're already ready to buy. People don't buy what you do. I'm going to show you a little video, and it's 3 minutes. Just watch it and see what you think in terms of why people actually buy. Okay, so boom.
Is your baby ugly? Wow, that's quite a question, isn't it? It's a question I often feel like I'm asking when I work with the businesses I work with, when I particularly try to understand why they exist and what makes them different. So I will work with an organization. I'll go in to see them. I'll say, tell me about your business. Invariably, they will come up with the same old story that everybody else comes up with. They'll say, we make this product. We are great at this service. We are fantastically knowledgeable. We are capable, technically gifted. We know what we're doing. We've been around since 1997, etc., etc. And what I say is, nobody cares. So that's like me going to an organization where the business owners have invested life, time, money, energy, blood, sweat and tears, and saying, nobody cares. So am I saying that your baby's ugly? I guess to some extent I am. The reality is they're getting it wrong because they're not focusing on the impact of what they do so much as the service or product that they provide. I just want to inspire you with a little thought process. People don't buy what you do, they buy why they should buy from you. Let me give you an example. My business.
I can't do chat at the same time as showing the video.
IMPACTUS Group does 3 things that no one cares about, including me. We do training, coaching and consultancy, and I'm bored telling you and you're bored listening. The reality is we are all about inspiring performance excellence in teams, individuals and in businesses. And I always start with that. When someone says to me, tell me about your business, I always start with the impact statement, the why. We inspire people to performance excellence individually, teams, and across the business.
Right, well, that video's got a little bit more to it. I'm going to leave that with you to watch, but the how and then the what is exactly what you know what you do. So the what for Angie is, you know, in terms of marketing services, it might be social media, website, strategy. That's your product range is your what. The why is the impact piece of you know, what's the impact of working with you. And the how is what I call your onboarding moment. If you're going to work with me, how would you onboard me? So you would assess my requirements, you'd recommend some solutions, you'd implement those solutions, you would review progress, and you'd evaluate impact or whatever. So those are action-orientated words in the how you work. So we assess, we review, we increase, we develop, we whatever it might be. We facilitate, we create. Any of those action-orientated words go into the how. But you always start with the why. Why should I bother? Why do you exist? Do any of you have a strap line for your business right now? Who's got a strap line for their business? I'm going to go to Claire Grayson because she's not on video. And I'm going to go to Sue Newton as well because she's not on video. So Claire first, if you're still there, I can never tell you, see. So unmute for me, Claire. What's your business and do you have a strap line? Could have gone for a cup of tea, you never know, do you? See, that's why I want video on. Sue Newton, I can't see what the full name is there, Sue. Are you there? Okay, right. Well, if you're not there, you're not there. I'm going to go to Sam from Performing Arts. I'm going to go to Stuart from Switch Lifestyle. Stu, do you have Sam, do you have a strap line for your business?
I think we do. I can't remember what it is. We don't use it very often.
I'll be honest with you. If you've got one, you don't know what it is. You haven't got one. That's how that works, really. That's the reality. No, absolutely. What do you think it's about? Because I love this when people go, we've got one. And I think it's got that in there. And I think it says this. What do you think it's about?
I think it's something around enabling people to achieve more than they believe they can.
Okay, that's fine. Now that's okay. That's the why I would talk to you from Performing Arts, okay? So how you work, if I'm a potential customer, how do you work? So you know, what's your action stages of onboarding me as a client? Is it you assess what my requirements are, you create some kind of program, you host and deliver, you then evaluate? Is that the kind of process you go through?
Yeah, we tend to deliver similar projects for different clients. So it's often large-scale performance projects about them writing songs and putting hundreds of kids on the stage. So this year it's been about not doing very much most of the time.
Okay.
But yeah, it's about going to people and delivering a service in their space, and then bringing lots of organisations together to share that at the end.
Okay. Stuart Smith, Switch Lifestyles. Do you have a strap line for Switch Lifestyles, Stuart?
No, we don't, to be honest, Nick. And it's interesting you talking about kind of impact statements and things. I think we probably spend too much time talking about the what we do. We're life and health insurance brokers, and we talk about the policies and the products and that too much of the time instead of actually what we do for our clients. So
what you do for your clients in there, you're about risk, aren't you? Managing risk or reducing risk, or creating financial certainty or whatever. And I think you've got to think about that as you know, if you just introduce yourself, you can't own the space if you're in a space where everybody's in there. So if you're just another organization that looks at policies and processes, then it's hard to own the space, isn't it? If that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So okay, Eamon's gone. Thank you, Eamon. Anyway, right. Okay. I'm going to talk to you now about another game changer, which is proposals. How many of you have to write proposals to win business? Put your hand if you have to write proposals. Who haven't we gone through much? Tracy, we'll go to Tracy, and then we'll go. You keep moving around. Then we'll go to Laura. Okay, Tracy, how do you write your proposals? What do you have to put in your proposals?
Meeting what the client wants,
Right.
and opportunities for funding that we've got available through Pro Development, and I mean, there's tons of stuff. I don't know where to start, really.
So how are they presented to me? I'm a potential client. How would I receive the proposal?
Mostly in a PowerPoint presentation.
Mm-hmm. Convert to a PDF then, would you?
Yeah.
Would you send it to me and I'd have a look at it, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. You were going so well, so I tripped you up at that last trick question, but don't worry, I'll come back to that. I'll come back to that. Laura, is yours similar in terms of lots of information that you have to present?
Yeah, I mean, it varies really, because we do some quick turnaround stuff where the people might just do a quick, we can do that project for you, it'll cost this much, it's this. But we have to apply to a lot of big sort of formal tenders and proposals where you really have to, problem for us is deciding how much effort to put into those sometimes, how much scoping you put in and how much of yourself you give away in terms of this is how we would do it, this is what we can bring to the project.
What's the level of crown jewels you're prepared to share early?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. There's a word you use there, I want you to remove from your vocabulary, and I want you all to remove from your vocabulary. What was the word that Laura used that I didn't like?
Effort?
No.
No.
Cost. Swap the word cost for investment. You'll have a massively different dynamic with the listener. So for example, if you say to somebody, the investment in this research is going to be this, you be talking to people who are prepared to look at an investment and a return on investment. If you say this research costs that, the first reaction is, oh, I bet I can get that cost reduced. So people have a very different dynamic with the word cost to the word investment. I never use the word cost in anything that I do now. I talk about the investment in your team development, the investment in your improvement in performance, the investment in your whatever is going to be. And when somebody says, so I'm looking to get that cheaper, say, so you're looking to invest less in your team. Ooh, oh, well, you know, it can be quite a challenging, positive conversation to have with people who just want to value something by the pound and not value something by the output. So swap the word cost for investment in all your proposals and everything else. But I'm going to talk about proposal presentation. Tracy did so well. She converts proposals into visual impact pieces using PowerPoint and then converts them to PDF. But then, unfortunately, she sends them off to people. And the problem with sending them off to people is, what have you lost? What have you lost when you send them off to people? Anyone unmute? Stuart?
Control.
Control. The one thing that you need as a sales professional, you've lost, is the control. So what I do is I do exactly what Tracy said there. I'll create a proposal. I've got some templates. The vast majority of them are similar because that's the little bit about us. But the reality is the proposal needs to be the right order. So it needs to look at their challenge. It needs to look at the solutions that you're providing. It needs to look at the impact of those solutions. It needs to look at the investment and a little bit about you're in the right place. You've chosen Pro Development. I went to work with a client a few years ago. They did a proposal as a Word document, 14 pages about them. Before you'd even seen about the client, I went, well, we're gonna have to change that. First of all, we'll scrap the 14 pages into 2. We'll put them as an appendix. And actually, let's stop sending them as a Word document because no one's reading them. What do people read first if you send them a document, whether it's a PDF and a nicely produced PDF? What do they look for first?
Cost.
Cost, which isn't cost, it's investment. But so the first thing they do is, and the problem that you've got is you cannot control how they look at it or when they look at it. What you can do is you can use Zoom or Teams or your preferred platform. And I now never, ever send a proposal to somebody. So I've got 2 big jobs that I've won last week and both of them went down the same route. Came to me, so let's talk about thought leads. It came to me from left field, didn't know either of these businesses. Both said we'd like to think about potentially working with you. Very different projects. And I said, right, okay. Did a scoping conversation on the phone. And I said, right, I'll get the proposal done for you by Tuesday. When are you available for a Zoom call? And the guys on both occasions both went, can you send it to us? I went, that's not really how we work. I said, the reason we don't send a proposal is I need to be available to answer any questions that you might have and deal with those immediately while you're there, because that makes it easier for you, really, for you as a customer, and also it makes it easier for us. So that's how we work. So when do you want the Zoom call? Set the Zoom calls up. That allows me to present the proposal. What am I looking to do when I present the proposal to people using the technology that we all know how to use now? We all know how to use Zoom and Teams, and I've done them all. Hangouts, Google, you name a platform, I've probably been involved, WebEx, done them all. So whatever your preferred method is, I'm setting up a Zoom to run through this proposal with you, Tracy. Brilliant. Okay, Tuesday at 2. I've got my shared screens. I've got my proposal in the right order. I've got the graphically pleasing content, and the investment is the last thing they're going to see. But they're going to see it when I'm ready to show them it. They're going to see it when I've got them going, wow, that's interesting. That's exactly what we're looking for. And when I say to them, how's this looking so far? How does that look? How are we in terms of meeting your requirements? And they're saying, yeah, that looks great. That looks great. I know they're thinking, how much is this going to cost? How much? I don't care. I've got them to say, great, or I like the look of this. This is spot on, 2 or 3 times during the reveal conversation process. At which case I'm going to say to them, right, if I feel cocky, sometimes do, I'll say to them, how much do you reckon this is going to set you back then? And I'll say that to them. If I feel like there's a good balance, and they'll go, oh, it looks a bit expensive, it's 15 grand. And then in which case I just type quickly 15. No, I don't. In which case I don't do that. Tracy smiling at me. I don't do that. But what I'll say to them, and you can't do that with everybody. You don't do that with a lot of people. I'll just say to them, so looking at what your requirements were, looking at our proposal, looking at how we've handled the objections that we've gone so far, looking at how we've handled the questions that you've got available to us, I reckon we're on the right path. So I'm doing a bit of a pre-close. I think we're on the right path. I think we're in the right place. I think technically, operationally, and from a delivery point of view, we're probably singing from the same hymn sheet. Now, the investment in getting that right, working with us, is going to be X. And then I'm silent. But I've released the investment when I'm ready to release it. I haven't sent them it. I haven't sent them it to let them read it. And then they read it. And then I don't know how detailed they've read it. I don't know how much information they've absorbed. So when you ring up to follow up a proposal, you go, what do you think of the proposal? You get the fob off. You get the, I'll come to you in a second, Anne, don't worry, and Mark. You get the fob off. Are you going? You're saying you're going? Okay. So you get the fob off, don't you? When, yeah, it's okay. I'm looking at it. We haven't made a decision yet. Well, you've lost all control. So because we can use the technology we're all comfortable with, start using the technology you're comfortable with to present your proposition. What's your views on that, first of all, on doing that? Tracy, you're one step away from getting that right. It's great you've done the proposals in a visually appealing manner. What's your view? I really respect you as a senior, experienced sort of business professional. What's your view on that, Tracy?
Yeah, I'm with you on most of it. I think I'd probably think about who my client was. Mm-hmm. So I think it would work better for some clients than others. So if they're kind of, visual and can think on their feet, if they're more kind of thinking and reserved, then I might think about if that was too in the face.
The problem with the second one is they're going to deeply read everything, but I'd still do potentially I'd do a headline for them. I totally get. I'd do a headline for them and then send them a detailed proposal afterwards, so that at least you can control the release of the information, even though they're going to reflect and absorb and take on board that information. And by the way,
I think one of the other things that you're bound to get as well is I need to share this with other people, or I need to get the decision makers' approval, etc.
But put them on the Zoom call with me or not, or I'll present it to you, and at least I present it in a way that I've controlled that. So you're right. I don't do them for small, quick turnaround jobs either, by the way. You don't do, if you've got a quick, small turnaround job, sometimes you don't need to do that. You think it's, you know, winnable, but certainly if it's worth winning well. So remember that if you send something, you've lost control. If you present something, you control every element of that, and you control the release of the big one, which is the investment in that solution for you. Okay. Now, objections are best done face to face. That's why I do a Zoom call, because I want to control that. They won't give you an objection over the phone. They won't give you an objection over email. They'll just go, we're thinking about it. And if I tell you we're thinking about it 3 or 4 times, eventually you'll stop ringing. Eventually you'll stop chasing me. So that's why I do it on that basis. I want to put everything into the one element of a call. But I'm going to do a bit of word association. If I said the word to you, I want you to write down the first thing that comes to mind, okay? So I'm going to tell you a word. I want you to write down the first thing that comes to mind. And the word is, drum roll, assertive. What does assertive mean to you? Okay, who wants to share with me? Mark, City Cruises. I'm sorry, Mark, you had a question earlier. I completely forgot to go back to you. Sorry.
It's all right. I know Anne, and I was waving goodbye to her. So
okay, sorry, that's fine.
But I was the only one. So then
you just bought her Ford Fiesta that she's left on the shelf. What does assertive mean to you?
Only one word, because it could probably mean a few words.
Sentence, short sentence.
I was going to say the word I wrote down was decisive, but I suppose strong, decisive leadership.
Okay. No problem.
I'd say as a phrase.
Graham Fountain, and then we'll go to Will. Graham, what does assertive mean to you?
Strong-willed.
Strong-willed, okay. Will from Ignite. Unmute for me, Will, if you're there. Can't tell if that's a picture or.
Yeah, I got strong as well, actually.
Yeah. So the thing with assertive is people think it's strong, which it is strong. It's having decisiveness, etc. But it's not at the expense of other people. My definition of assertiveness is win-win. That's it, simple, win-win. So when it comes to negotiating and closing and owning that space and getting people to communicate with you in a way you want to communicate with them, looking for a win-win is exactly how it starts. I always start my negotiations and discussions with a basis of, when we finish this, I want to feel as though I've got what I want to get out of this, but I absolutely want them to own their space and feel as though they're part of that as well. We don't want to win at their expense, and we certainly don't want to lose at our expense. Some of you will have clients that you've given too much to, that are a nightmare to service, that expectations have gone through the roof and you're not earning the money you should be earning from. I'm not going to ask you to name them. You've all got them. You don't feel great about them. You don't give them the service you should give them, and it all falls down because you haven't got a win-win. So win-win is the starting point for negotiation. The only thing I think about with negotiations are, what's the other side of the table in terms of what's happening in their world. So I look at the dynamics. I look at the level of person I'm negotiating with. I look at the dynamics of their sector or their industry. I look at the challenges. I can't believe that. Somebody at the door. I can't. How professional is this? I'm in my own. I can't get the cat to answer the door. I've 2 seconds. Very professional. Very polished.
Chris, do a handstand.
You shoved it through the letterbox anyway. Right. Anyway. Okay. So what I'm looking at is the dynamics of the other person. Are they able to make decisions? Are they under pressure financially? Are they dealing with all sorts of other issues? But again, closing the deal, you would do face-to-face in a meeting. Closing the deal needs to be done face-to-face on Zoom or Teams or Hangout or wherever it might be. So before we get to the last bit, which is how do you grow your existing accounts using the technology that we've got, what's the best closing techniques that we've come across? Who's got a great closing technique? Who's got the ability to close more business than their competitors, better than their colleagues? Who's good at winning? Put your hands up if you're a good closer. Chris Wilson, you absolute fairy. I can't believe you didn't put your hand up. big baby. Put your hand up, man. If you say to me you're not good at closing, you're a blooming sales consultant, mate. Honestly. How do you close, Christopher?
So Nick, based on everything we've talked about, when should we start?
Right, so that's what we call assumptive close, which is cheeky beyond belief, and you can do that if you've got the right person, if you've got the right dynamics, if you've got the right banter, and you feel like you've got the right sort of relationship, you can absolutely do that. You can be even more cheeky. Are we starting on Tuesday or Friday? I didn't say either, but let's go with one of them, so that's okay. Stu, you work in a very sort of sales dynamic environment at Business Watch. What's your favorite closing technique?
In fairness, the gent that's just been on, whenever I can, I try and take that kind of approach, you know, a little bit cheeky, confident, direct, you know, slightly assumptive really, but I think that's
all right. But not everyone can do that. I'm looking around the room and some of you wouldn't do that in a month of Sundays. And he's not a gent, by the way, it's Chris from, no, I'm only joking. So anyway, right. I always think closing comes best after you've done a summary. Closing comes best after it's warmed up. So I want to remind people of the impact of working with us. So let's take us through a process. We've been involved in presenting a proposal. We've owned that proposal presentation. We've owned the investment. We've overcome objections. We've negotiated and discussed it. And I want to remind them of all of that before I ask for the business. So I'll say to them, so when we started, you weren't sure about what you were exactly looking for. I believe we've done this, 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 and this. I believe you've answered some of the questions that were outstanding that you had some concerns about. And I believe that our proposal ticks all the boxes for you. And it's at the right investment for your organization. So I'm reminding them of the high points of where we are. And then I just say to them, I call this an iron fist in a silk glove. I just say to them, so what do you want to do? What happens next? Don't get me wrong, I'm more direct than that in most cases, but for those who are not sure, if you've done a pre-closed summary like that, I'll say, so what happens next? And let them tell you. So imagine it's a date. So Tracy, I'm going to horrify you now. You're on a date with me, Tracy, okay? I think Make It York will pay for your therapy. You'll be okay. It's part of the process. So you and I are on a date. I'm old school. I'm going to walk you home, okay? And I've got an objective in mind for the end of the date, which is to get a second date before any of you go anywhere else. My objective is to get a second date with Tracy, okay? I've enjoyed the evening. But I'm not sure if she's enjoyed the evening as much as I have, and I'm not sure by saying, can I see you again, if I'm going to get the result. So I'm going to say, nice meeting you, great fun, we've got something in common. I'm going to remind you the high points of the evening. And I'm going to say to you, so what happens next? And it's your choice. And it allows you to say, well, it's been nice, Nick, but not for me. And I think, oh, okay, so what do I have to do next? What would I have to do to get a second date? You know, choose a better restaurant, don't be a cheapskate, don't whatever. It gives me a second bite of the cherry. Or you might say, yeah, I've enjoyed that. I wouldn't mind seeing you again. The customer chooses. 6 out of 10 customers, if you say what happens next with a good close, will say to you, let's go ahead. The other 4, you've got a second bite of the cherry when they say, I'm not quite ready. We've got to talk it over with our partners. We've got to do all that. So as long as you put a pre-closed summary in, you're okay. So far, we've talked about winning new business. I'm just going to finish off with, not my video, I'm going to finish off with showing you, see, get used to using Zoom like me, like an absolute ninja. I just want to show you what you do with existing customers, because what's happened with existing customers is we've forgotten sometimes how to deal with them in the pandemic. So we think talking to them is enough, and we think ringing them occasionally is enough, but there's more to it than that. So again, categorize the types of customers you've got, have a defined communication program for each type of customer, big, regular, one-offs, annual, small, growing, etc., and set out a communications plan for each of those categories of customer. But make sure you do the right thing. Does it involve a review meeting face-to-face, which you can't do at the moment? Can we do a monthly Zoom or a quarterly Zoom or a weekly call or whatever? I currently work with a company over in the Wirral, and I call the MD twice a month, and I run a sales team meeting once a month, and it's all done by Zoom, because we get so much more from that than we would do from not doing anything, or from just doing it on a phone call. In between face-to-face, use the technology. Something that I'd like you to think about is, can you help your customers to be more self-sufficient by showing your expertise? So if you're a product or a process kind of business, have you got any things like how-to guides? The client I'm working with in the Wirral, they are called the Automatic Door Company. And what they do is they put all the automation onto glass doors for retail parks and barriers and gates. Anything that's got automation that lifts and moves and gates and barriers and doors, they put all that on. And a lot of the routine stuff that businesses can do are things like cleaning them and making sure that they're oiled and whatever. So instead of people phoning up saying, oh, I've got a bit of a greasy gunge coming out the side of my motor, they've got these how-to guides on their website for existing customers, and they tell customers, this will help you to maintain your, you do your routine. It's like your oil and your water in your car. Frequently asked questions. These are the questions we get asked all the time by our customers. So we've created a little helpful video. We're going to share that with you as a customer, as an existing customer. And then just make them action orientated. If you need us, give us a call, etc., etc. So you're talking to them, you're zooming them, you're communicating with them, you're sharing content with them, and you're creating momentum as an opportunity. And the last thing I'd say to you is, think about putting a WhatsApp group together, or a Slack or a Messenger group for your customers, so that if you've got something to share, you can share it quickly and in one place and in one space. It might be difficult if your customers are all competing with each other, but in a lot of cases, it's not that case. So we've talked about sales isn't changing; it's already here. We've talked about doing what you've always done. One of my favorites, a couple of weeks ago, one of my clients said, I said, how do you get your business? And he said, we do 2 big exhibitions a year in Germany. I went, excellent. How's that going? He went, yeah, exactly. So if his 2 big exhibitions a year in Germany don't exist, what's he doing differently? You can get access to clients in much more than you ever could, but you've got to push content out there to pull them in to see you as an expert. I would say 60% of my business comes from referrals or direct contact back to me from people who've seen something. And I'm not saying I own that channel, I don't, but I've certainly put an ownership stake in the ground for being a guy of relevance and reference point in sales, I guess. And Chris is doing the same as well. And, there's space for all of us, isn't there, Chris, because there's not that many people doing what we do as effectively as, hopefully we do that. Get visual with your content, but you don't have to create animation and all that. Just be a bit more visual where it comes to. I run a podcast series. There's 2 podcasts on the link, which will show you. They're all about sales changing, and my contact details are there if you want to connect with me afterwards, if you're not connected or you want something on that basis. So that was Sales Reimagined. It was looking at the future. I've got some questions or something in the chat. There might just be people saying I'm going now. Blah, 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 blah. Let's have a look at what the questions are. I'm off. I just need to move on. Thanks. Blah, blah, blah. Thank you. Great to see some face everywhere. That's fine. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I've got to go. These are not, sorry, dog challenges. Who was that, Stuart? Run. Haha. Are you sharing the slides with us? Happy to do that, Tracy. Absolutely. Even though I don't use them much, I use them for myself, but you're more than happy to have those. Thank you for that. Any questions that are not, what do I do with my dog, or how do I feed the cat, or whatever? Because we're sort of bang on time, really, almost. Any questions, thoughts, observations? Helpful? Thanks for your contributions. You can unmute, you're allowed to do that. But I'm going to stop the recording. So